Brad, the Knicks are playing Summer League. I don't know if you've watched any of it. I've barely watched any. Um, Jaylen Martin looks like he'll actually be on the NBA team in the next 3 years, which is exciting to find from an undrafted pick. He's 6'6". He has a 7'1" wingspan or 7-foot wingspan. I think we should just bring him up now, man. I mean, we don't have a backup power forward. Isaiah Roby, unless it's an Isaiah thing and he does the Hartenstein from last year where he looks terrible for a long time and then finally looks good. Does not look like he's the guy. Is Jaylen Martin the next Obi Toppin? Yes or no?
In what sense? How so?
Is he playing backup power forward in the next 2 years?
Oh, no, dude. No. I mean, Jaylen Martin. He's likely, if he's playing this well, he's likely just going to round out the bottom of the rotation. And there's 9 guys. You know, everyone keeps talking. I think we're gonna just kind of segue right into this, but there's 9 guys. Well, there's 9 men who are going to get minutes without a doubt. And then there's 2 other guys that are going to get minutes sometimes. So for everyone who thinks that we're going to go out and sign Christian Wood, you don't know how basketball teams operate at this point. Sorry.
Christian Wood and PJ Washington are both looking for way more minutes, money, and time. At least way more minutes, maybe not money, than the Knicks could possibly offer, especially if they're just going to look at Obi Toppin's tape from last year and be like, he's never going to play us. Why would we come here? How are we going to make money after this?
Right. And to your point, even with 9 guys that were capable of minutes, Obi Toppin still wasn't getting much more than 10 or 15 a night. So yeah, there's 9 guys on this team, and 9 of them are going to play. None of which, except for Julius Randle, is considered a power forward. Don't care.
Very true. So you're not what do you think is going to happen more often? I feel like we both are going to be in alignment on this. Are Josh Hart and RJ Barrett going to be the 3-4 for the backup unit, or is Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein going to be the backup 4 or 5 for the backup unit? What do you think is going to get more minutes? And then how do you think the distribution goes for both? Assuming Randall plays 35 minutes a game and there's 13 to be made up for it.
Yeah, I think that what's going to end up happening is you're going to see, when it's warranted in smaller lineups, you're going to see RJ and or kind of Josh Hart and that in that wing role, that 3-4 role, like you said. And then if and when you actually do need, like against like a Bobby Portis, for example, or some big backup power forward, just like last year when I think it was Obi that went down, you saw Jericho Sims come in and get a whole bunch of minutes. Between him and Isaiah Hartenstein, those 2 guys are going to play the bulk of the minutes against like bigger teams. But I would have to imagine, as long as Julius Randle is healthy, on the nights where you actually do need to play like a Jericho Sims and Isaiah Hartenstein together, they're just going to give Julius more minutes, plain and simple.
There's not too many teams I could even think of, man. Like the Magic obviously have a bunch of big dudes. Like I feel like most of their team is over 6'9". The Thunder, with Chet coming back now, they have Chet and Poku still, and my non-favorite player, Jalen Williams, that are all 6'9", 6'10", and above. And then from the good teams, it's like the Bucks, like you said, and the Lakers when they're playing Rui and Davis together. But outside of that, like most teams don't really have like a 6'10" power forward and a 7-foot center. So it's like, what are you gonna really do?
When it comes to like a Rui Hachimura, I could even see RJ getting more time at the backup wing. I think they're just going to stagger him. He's going to be similar to how he was playing a lot last year. I think they're just going to stagger him. He's going to be the first guy off the court. They're going to bring in whoever it is, Quickly or Josh Hart, whatever the case may be. They're going to bring someone in.
Or Dante now.
Right. Bring RJ back in up against the backups. I would have to imagine you're going to see a wing duo of Josh Hart and RJ Barrett 80-90% of the time, if I had to, bet money on it.
And then, Sims and Ihart making up the 10% against
the other 10%. Yeah, totally.
I literally said 4 teams that I could think off the top of my head. Maybe there's 2 more. So, I mean, if there's only 6 out of 29 opponents that have actual big big like forward center backup lineups. Oh, the Timberwolves would be another one, but that's basically it. There's not too many. For all the
I
teams
mean,
that have wings
yeah,
that are 6'9", none of them are like power forward centers. Like there's no LaMarcus Aldridge's or Tim Duncan's really running around anymore.
yeah, no, and those are, to your point, those are also starters. So those guys are going to go up against Julius Randle anyway. You know,
Yeah.
I just think it's so silly how people think of one player. Typically, you got Rui Hachimura is a decent one, but he's also like 6'7". He's a bigger body.
He's 6'10". He's long as fuck.
Rui Hachimura?
He's 6'10". Yeah, you can look it up.
No way.
Swear to God. I swear on my life. Here, I'll do it. Here, filibuster while I look it up. Go ahead, though.
No, dude, Rui Hachimura, that's blowing my mind. I thought he came into the league like 6'7", 6'8". Did he grow in that time?
I
think
think he
you're
came in at
wrong, pal.
6'10", dude.
He's 6'8".
What are you looking at? He's 6'8".
Google.
Dude, no shot. He looks so much. He's
Wikipedia
so
says
much
he's
taller than that.
6'8" also.
That's insane. That dude's almost the same height as Anthony Davis. I watched them stand next to each other mad times in the playoffs.
Maybe Anthony Davis is lying. I mean, 2 inches, especially from far, kind of seems the same. I mean, Kevin Love is like known for being 6'8", even though he's listed at like 6'10".
Oh, and then 6'10", yeah.
And then you see him standing next to LeBron James, and they're literally the same height. Like they're
Yeah.
literally the same height. But yeah, Rui Hachimura is 6'8". So again, to your point, there aren't a lot of these big backup, center forward type wings that like a Bobby Portis, for example. I can guarantee you that Bobby Portis playing up against RJ Barrett for 7 minutes tonight, 10 minutes a night is not going to ruin the Knicks' chances of beating the Milwaukee Bucks. Like, sorry, it is what it is.
The Knicks have already done terrible against Milwaukee in the past 4 years anyway. They've won 1 or 2 times in the 11 times they've played.
Right. So it's like, who else could there possibly be? What other big, dominant, apparently, backup power forward is there that everyone is just so afraid of? It just makes no sense to me.
Brad, if they were dominant, they would be a starter getting 35
It'd be a
plus
starter.
tonight.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. What 6'10" backup power forward is there that we're so afraid of? Whatever. I don't want to keep talking about this. It's so stupid.
It is dumb. I'm super excited for RJ to get back up 4 offensive minutes. Because I've been saying for almost 2 years now that I want to see RJ be able to attack bigs anyway, because I think he does that better than he does most things in this game. And it's gonna help his points go up, it's gonna help his field percentage go up. And then you don't have to worry about him not being that great at 3 still. And if he does get great threes, awesome. Fantastic. If not, he's still getting to almost 20 points a game, doing it in a very efficient way, which is all we really need out of the guy at the end of the day.
Right.
I wanted to ask you because we obviously saw the thing before from Bleacher Report that Vin made a jersey swap of for Bojan Bogdanovic. There's 2 of them. And for Bojan, he literally chose Julius Randle's number, which is hilarious because I've come to realize Vin doesn't actually care about any of their numbers. He just takes whatever jersey matches up and he puts it on there and it works. And then there's always like 4 or 5 people that haven't come to realize how Photoshop works, that to take the time to change the number is way longer than just doing it and posting it.
Right.
He's not trading Julius Randle, by the way, guys. I just want everyone to know that. But the proposed trade was Bojan for Fournier and what was it, like a top 10 protected first round pick?
Top 10 protected first round pick for 2024.
So in essence, they could just get the Mavericks pick, and then the Knicks still have their own unprotected pick next year, plus the 2 that probably aren't going to convey. Knowing that Bojan put up 20 points a game last year on 40% shooting and is 6'7", and wouldn't really be expected to do too much outside of scoring when he comes off the bench more than anything else. Would you do that trade? If not, why? Is it because of the pick? Would you rather it be 2 seconds or something? And how much do you think Bojan would help the team?
Considering that he'd probably be relegated to a backup 4 and really not able to play much 3, which he can do, especially up against backups, I wouldn't do the trade simply because, again, there is no space for him. Everyone who's complaining about Obi Toppin and his playing time cannot then say, well, let's go get a legitimate backup power forward who's got name value and are going to expect him to play big minutes behind Julius Randle, unless he's better than Julius Randle. He's not going to play anywhere close to decent, like a decent amount of minutes every night. You know,
He shoots better. I don't think he's going to do much else better at this point in his career. He's like 34 years old. His
right,
best days are like 4 years ago, unfortunately.
right. Exactly my point. You know, it's really funny. I kind of want to just go touch on the last thing that we were talking about, and then we'll kind of move forward, because I actually have every single depth chart of every single team pulled up here. I just want to really put things in perspective for Knick fans. You ready? Maybe we can even make this into a little bit of
Just because
what?
there's 30 teams, don't say all 30. I would say name the Eastern Conference only for all the backups if you're going to do that.
You ready?
Yeah.
Let's actually make this into a little TikTok. I think this would be kind of cool. Here's the scary power forwards, backup power forwards that are just going to destroy the Knicks every single night because we don't have a backup power forward. Sadiq Bey, Royce O'Neal, JT Thor, Dean Wade, Marvin Bagley III.
Dean Wade has destroyed us a couple times.
Well, shut up.
Keep going. Keep going.
Maxi Kleber, Obi Toppin, David Roddy, don't even know who that is. Jared Vanderbilt, not going to destroy anybody. Marcus Morris, DNP the entire half the season. Jay Crowder, I rest my case. No one. Trey Murphy.
David Roddy is a bucket, bro. I just want to point that out there. David Roddy is a bucket and has glorious hair. Glorious hair.
I don't even know who that is. Trey Murphy III was a huge fan of his. Really wanted the Knicks to get him. Not a world beater. Ousmane Dieng, the guy that the Knicks drafted and then traded his rights to Oklahoma City, that everyone was especially
he's still 2 years away from really actually getting
especially State, who was super pissed about that trade. Ousmane Dieng, another one. Mo Wagner, Nasir Little, Trey Lyles, Dominic Barlow, not a real person. Sorry. Denny Avdija. Luke
Trey Lyles
Spanish.
Also is nice, and so is Denny Avdija. That's so hard.
Thaddeus Young is just gonna just wreck the Knicks.
Thad Young is the player coach we need on our team right now. I'm actually kind of scared that our team has no one over 30 years old at all. Like, I love the youth movement and everything, and like that's how it's supposed to be. It should be most of the time, especially for a team that's like always upward descending. To not have a single like Derrick Rose or Taj Gibson like guy on the team, especially knowing how much Tibbs can rub, seems like he rubs people the wrong way, I think might end up leading to issues at some point during this season.
Taj Gibson's a free agent. As long as Taj Gibson is in the league, he will have a. Well, I'm sorry. As long as Taj Gibson is in the league and not retired, and also Tom Thibodeau is employed by a professional basketball franchise, Taj Gibson will be on a roster. And that roster,
should he not just be a legit player assistant coach at this point? Am I wrong?
I mean, I have a weird feeling he's going to be on the Knicks this year.
I think it makes sense. Even if he only plays,
even if
he plays 10 games a year for 4 minutes of those games. Like, I think it just makes sense at this point.
Right. Exactly. So
also, Brad, you know me, I'm about all bald dudes. Any bald dude, bring him on.
Facts. In conclusion to what I was saying before, everyone's ridiculous for thinking that we're just going to get destroyed by teams with great backup power forwards. Anywho,
all that I heard outside of Jared Vanderbilt and Denny Avdija, who are two of the best defensive larger forward wing like mesh guys in the league, I heard RJ Barrett destroying a lot of dudes off the dribble or actually making great plays on cuts and stuff. That's all I heard out of all that time.
Exactly my point. So,
and I didn't hear a single dude outside of David Roddy, who you don't even know, and then one other name that's getting me, that I'm actually worried about Josh Hart not being able to just get his hand in his face the whole time and not be able to do crap. David Roddy has a shot, and there was one other guy you mentioned, and I forgot the name.
Is it Lucas Samanic, the once Nick always?
It's not the worst Luka. No, it's not. Although you naming all the backup fours really makes this exercise really funny.
Yeah,
I'm not worried at all.
So silly.
Can I know you didn't watch too much Summer League, but I wrote so many notes about the Summer League guys. Can I just like tell you the notes I wrote real quick and you can react to each guy? Not all of them. I don't just for the main three. Because Daquan Jeffries obviously was playing really well the first game and got hurt, and he's out for the rest of the Summer League. I truly think Daquan Jeffries just belongs on a roster at this point. Like, he seems like he could literally lead China or Spain or one of those leagues like in scoring. Like, he could be the Kobe Ross, for example, that BJ was telling us about. Like, he could literally go to a league next year and win MVP. But I think Daquan Jeffries belongs on a roster one way or another. So not including him. First off, Trevor Keels, our second round pick last year, who was not drafted as a point guard, didn't play point guard at Duke, and does not look like a point guard. And they are having him try to play point guard. And it just doesn't look right. It's just like he doesn't have a great bag. He's not really able to get by his original defender unless he's like already sprinting. He doesn't have a good shot. Last game, he scored 9 points on 13 shots against the Magic and was 1 of 6 from 3. He does the things you would want out of a dude like him. Like, dude, he's like a grinder. He like gets rebounds. He like gets assists. He makes the right cut. He got 3 steals in the game. Like, he's more like a Tony Allen to me than he is a point guard. And they're just trying to get him. Like, I get it. He's 19 years old. He's your second round pick last year. He would only be a sophomore going into his junior in college right now. I just don't see it happening with Trevor Keels being a point guard. I think he's just going to be a small wing his whole life, like most of our roster right now. What are you saying? What do you think?
I'm very curious why he decided to go, enter into the draft so early, especially because, like, from what I know from people that do watch a lot more college sports than I do in college basketball, a lot of people were not that high on him. In fact, I have a friend who's a UNC fan, and obviously, him coming from Duke, he would be like, yeah, no, Trevor Keels is absolute garbage, like hot garbage. And the fact that he came out into the, and entered into the draft at 18 years old, and since then has not really looked like he's an NBA caliber player. I mean, it's a second round pick, so you kind of have to bet on upside. You're not looking for a high floor. You are looking for as high of a ceiling as possible with a second round pick, because if first round picks are a crapshoot, second round picks are a hell of a lot more of a crapshoot. But I was gonna say, he reminded me a little bit, like, just physically, he kind of reminds me of an Eric Bledsoe in a sense.
Yes.
Like just a big stocky point guard.
He looks like he play linebacker.
That could also maybe moonlight as a linebacker on his off days, like play 6 days a week, and then 7th day on Sundays he goes and plays linebacker for his local pickup.
The Jets or Giants, whoever needs a linebacker, right?
Whoever needs it. I'm not really too sure about the Jets, but I know the Giants could use some linebacker depth, so maybe we throw Trevor Keels in there. But
for as phenomenal as the Jets defense is going to be, linebacker and safety are both weaknesses.
Right. I'll leave it on this. I did see a little bit of I did see, I think, game 1, the stat sheet after the fact, after the game, and I saw that he had like 2 points, and I was like, this kid's trash. Not happy about it.
Dude, he's not a point guard, and they're trying to have him masquerade as a point guard. And so one of the dudes I have written down that I don't really have to get into, I just like super fast, you don't have to even count this guy. QJ Peterson, who's 28 years old and is like really just trying to like get to and live his NBA dream. Played college at VMI, which means he was in the military, which means he had to stay an extra year, which like he didn't graduate till he was like 23, 24. He had 29 points per game in China last year, like in the CBL, the main league, obviously. He had 4 40-point games and a 50-point game. And he knows how to dictate the offense and just playmaking as like the backup point guard who ends up closing the game when they're like, well, if we want to win a game, Trevor Keels just isn't ready to do this, which Trevor Keels is 19 and not a point guard. And this dude is 28 and is a point guard in China, in like the second or third best league in the world. Like, it just makes sense that he would be better, I literally wrote that if QJ Peterson was 6'3" instead of 6 foot and 22 instead of 28, he would have been drafted. That's like how nice he looks. And like, just from dictating, getting his shot where he wants and stuff like that, but he doesn't matter. So, he doesn't matter in the sense that he's not going to make the Knicks. He matters as a person. I'm sorry about that. So the next guy that actually does matter for the Knicks, And I know I mentioned Isaiah Roby super fast before, but dude, unless this guy is playing himself into game shape and was like really like, I know he said he hasn't played basketball at all since he got hurt in March. He just does not like, he's been in the league almost 5 years now, I think. He doesn't look like he's doing as well in summer league as a guy that you would want to be in the league for 5 years. And he sure as hell doesn't look like a guy that deserves or should get 14 minutes per game playing backup anything for any team in the league.
Yeah, I actually liked him coming out of the draft a few years ago. I saw the athleticism. I saw his ability to. I mean, he was able to shoot a little bit coming out of college, but then again, so was Obi Toppin, and that really didn't work out too well in the NBA. He also can put the ball on the floor a little bit for a bigger guy, but other than
He can
that,
push for sure.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I would much rather see. I say this, but then I might regret it. But I'd much rather start like a Jericho Sims at the 4 if absolutely necessary. And then bring in like an RJ Barrett as like an offensive replacement, or like a Josh Harden as an offensive replacement or something like that shortly into the game, or something to that effect. That's the one point that a lot of people make that I'm like, all right, but what are the Knicks going to do? But then again, if I really went through the list again of all the depth charts, I guarantee you, if we had to start like a Josh Hart or I know I'm kind of going off your question, but
No,
if
it's
we
all
had
good.
to like a Josh Hart, or if we had to start like an RJ Barrett at the 4, if Julius Randle were to go down, I don't think there's many guys that are starting right now that would just absolutely annihilate us. Maybe they would. I'm not really too sure. Let me ask you this. I mean, what do you think? Let's say, God forbid, Julius Randle were to go down for an extended period of time. Taking into consideration that we have the 9 guys that are 100% going to get minutes, and then you also have, the Isaiah Hart. I'm sorry, the Jericho Simses of the world and the Deuce McBrides of the world. What do you think the Knicks do in that case if Julius Randle were to go down?
So I'm gonna try to speculate this based on a couple different scenarios, right? So if it's like the first week of the year, like say Randall has like his rookie season injury, he gets hurt the first game he's out for the year. I think they almost immediately try to make a trade. I think they would just immediately pivot. They have a bunch of draft picks. I mean, at that point, I'm not gonna say like teams are like they have a guy that wants to tank or get out. Like Dame wants to get out right now, and then Pascal Siakam, who we're gonna talk about in a second to probably close out, is also potentially available based on where his contract situation and where the Raptors are. I think they would trade if it was like the first week, first month, even if they're like less than 10, 20 games in.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like more than 20 games in and they're winning and they have like a winning record, I think they're going to give, I think the starting lineup would be Brunson, Grimes, RJ, Hart, Mitch. And I think they would give that like a 5 to 10 game sample size with playing Jericho as the backup and then maybe even throwing in like, I don't know, Dante is a really small, like just Dante is a small lineup. Like they can do a lot with like 4 small guard wings plus Mitch or Hartenstein. Maybe they even play Hartenstein and Mitch together on top of Sims plus one of them together at various points to make up the 48 minutes. And then, hold on a second. My camera died, even though the battery was full. I have to buy a camera. And then, the last scenario is that they're doing bad, right? They're like actually doing bad. It's near the trade deadline. And maybe they actually maybe sell 1 or 2 of their pieces. And I'm not going to say maybe they tank. I don't know. I mean, tanking is like taboo, especially for a team that's this good. But like, if you lose one of your second, third, fifth best player, I don't know. I know people hate Randall, but at the very worst, he's the 3rd best player on the team, depending on what you think. If you lose that guy early on, or if you lose Jalen Brunson, who's definitely number 1, and this team is then immediately going to miss the playoffs out of that, I think they just actually try to sell assets instead of buy assets and go from there. I know I gave you 3 answers. I would say the most likely in this scenario is that they would give RJ Hart at the 3-4 starting and playing most of the minutes. They would give them a 15 game sample size before making a real decision. What do you think?
Right. And that's a big reason why Dante DiVincenzo had a hard time operating in the with the Golden State Warriors. Like the only times where he really struggled was when Steve Kerr tried to use him in like a Draymond Green role where he was like a kind of like a small big, a 6'5", 6'6" guy. When they do want to run those like 5-out man, 5-out kind of lineups, and they again they tried to replicate what Draymond Green does night in and night out with Dante DiVincenzo, and that's when he didn't look his best. But I mean, you have Josh Hart, who's arguably the best rebounding guard in the league, wing, you should say. And then RJ Barrett's no slouch either. I think that's kind of the plan moving forward. I can't really see. I would have to imagine you see Josh Hart entered into the starting lineup in that case.
In this scenario, I actually would. It's really funny because of how captivating and polarizing both RJ Barrett and then Mr. Untouchable Quentin Grimes are to the Knicks and the organization and the Knicks fandom and Twitter as a whole. But I think in this scenario, one of the most used lineups, especially to make up for size and rebounding specifically, would be Brunson, obviously, and then IQ Dante Hart as the 2, 3, 4, and then either Mitch or Hartenstein. Because then we literally have 3 smaller wings. Like we don't have a real 4 in this scenario, but all 3 of those dudes rebound and defend way bigger than their size, and they would make up a lot of the what would basically be missing on the boards, which is the main issue outside of. I mean, if you have the Rui Hachimura's of the world shooting over you, like, so be it. You can only do so much. Or LeBron James in this, obviously. But, like, all 3 of those dudes rebound at a very high percentage based on their size and where they're considered as guard. So, I think they have scenarios and lineups. This team is going to have a lot of malleability with very similar guys being able to, they all have slightly different strengths. So, I'm really looking forward to actually seeing it and watching it. I hope it doesn't come at the expense of an injury, obviously. But my most exciting time to watch this team is going to be when Randall is on the bench, because I'm really excited to see what we end up throwing out there during that time.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting as well. One thing that I was thinking about when you were talking was, if you recall, Tibbs's first year with the Knicks, they did a lot more gang rebounding, if you'd recall,
Yeah.
where like they weren't the best rebounding team, but they were out rebounding a lot of other, a lot of their opponents simply because they were just crashing the boards each and every single time. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. And, one thing that we can say is that we know that Tibbs knows how to coach his defense into properly crashing the boards and properly, gang rebounding and not, giving up too much in transition the other way. So I think that could be, yeah.
And Mitch and Ihart both have 2 of the highest offensive rebound rates in the league, which helps out on the other end a lot too.
Which absolutely does help out on the other end as well. Yep.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I know we're both considered Randall. Like, I'm not really considered this nearly as much. I'm more considered from people that actually know and follow me that I'm willing to trade anyone for a top 8 player. I don't really care.
Me too.
I know you're in the same boat as me. I want to get into a little bit of Twitter today. Not a lot. I don't really want to talk about all of our beefs, or I don't really have any beef with anyone. It's mostly you guys, but I'm always on your side. Let's go BKE. I want to get into something that, like I said before about you, that like you've been following Marshall Green a lot, and I know this dude brings up stats that we all see and we all can easily find, and I love him just nitpicking RJ's worst playoff game when he had 2 bad playoff games, like 10 good playoff games and 2 bad, 8 good and 1 whatever. So it's really funny. But you've basically made like a full RJ Barrett heel turn. So can you go into what your past 6 months mindset has been, Brad, for you to get to the moment of let's trade RJ for Paul George, who's going to retire in a couple years and wanted a $220 million contract?
Right. So, I mean, as far as the trade, that's the trade proposal that I put on Twitter. What's funny is that I've lost like 30 followers since I put that up, since it's gone viral. Like, people that were following me before, they're like, "Oh, this guy's stupid. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Sure, the same person as before. Neither here nor there. Listen, first off, I prefaced it by saying I am not in any way, shape, or form giving Paul George the $220 million contract that he's looking for those 4 years. It's just not going to happen. If he was willing to take like take the deal that Daniel Jones got, 160 million for 4 years, something like
Yeah.
that. I'd be a lot more comfortable with. As long as he, did something that was a little bit more team friendly, I'd be all for it. Just because Paul George, say what you want about the guy, he's received MVP votes in the past. He's been, he's been at the biggest stage several times throughout his career. I think that come playoff time, as much as non-alpha as he is, I think Jalen Brunson can step up in those moments. But at the same time, if you put the 2K injury slider off, Paul George is a top 5 player in the league, in my opinion. Like if like top 10 at absolute worst. Skill for skill, you can't really beat the guy. He literally can do it from everywhere.
He hasn't played in a playoff game since COVID.
Right. But I'm saying if you turn it off. But what
That's
I'm saying,
not how life works.
I understand it's not real life, but I also just don't see how a team that keeps RJ Barrett could also trade for a Paul George. I think that he would kind of slot in as that 3-4 type wing, can play a little bit of both of those positions, and he could do it all. You want to give Tom Thibodeau more guys that fit his criteria of, isolation, off the dribble scorers, that excel in the pick and roll as a roll man, and so on and so forth, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's
Dude, I get it.
unrealistic.
He's great. He's great. He's one of the 15 best players
But
in the past
RJ
10
Barrett
years.
also
I understand.
Here's the thing though, Joey. RJ Barrett, I'm gonna end it on this. RJ Barrett has not improved that much since he came into the league. And I mean, say, he's only 23. Okay, great. He's been in the league for 4 years going on 5. I haven't seen that much of a leap, where I've seen other guys that have taken substantial leaps within 3 years, within 4 years. I just haven't seen it. And I want to see more out of the kid. And he's looked good, but he's just super inconsistent. And that's why I would have no issue trading him for a Paul George.
Contracts being equal, you can only keep one of these 3 guys. Rank them who you want to keep the most to the least on the Knicks. RJ, QG, IQ. You can only keep one for the next 4 years.
Yeah, I can only keep one?
Okay, only keep one. Quickly, Grimes, or RJ. I'm sorry, I made such a dramatic pause. I think I froze the podcast. Or
Quickly.
Brad, actually. Oh, no, you froze. All right, quickly, one. Who are you keeping 2, RJ or Grimes?
Button
You say
Grimes.
Grimes, you're a wild man. You're insane. You're absolutely insane.
Grimes can do. I think here's the thing, though.
I'm saying quickly RJ Grimes, by the way, for the sake of us cutting this. And now please explain.
I think that Quentin Grimes has a much higher ceiling than he's shown. And I think that he has the capability of putting the ball on the floor and taking people off the dribble a hell of a lot more than he's given credit for. But then on top of that, he's also a great shooter. He just has to find his consistency. I don't know. I think that 5 years from now, I think that RJ Barrett is going to be a very similar player. Whereas I think 5 years from now, Quentin Grimes is going to be a much, much better player than he is today.
I think if I was to actually bet money on it, and I know RJ would be the betting favorite, I think I would take quickly to make an all-star team before I would take RJ Barrett if I was to put my money on it, which is why I say IQ RJ over Grimes. Dude, if I wanted Grimes, there's 100 dudes like Grimes. OG Anunoby, one of my favorite players, so I just keep having to argue about with Knicks Twitter, is what Grimes hopes he could be one day, and he's also 2 inches taller and 4 inches long. Like, what am I gonna like? Quentin Grimes, 3-and-D guys are awesome when they're 6'7". When they're 6'4", they're great, but they're not awesome. And I know Quentin Grimes is, none of the 3 of them are at their peak or potential, obviously, but I'm still dumbfounded that we start Grimes over IQ. I don't even understand that. And yet we're in this scenario where we're only at most going to keep 2 of these guys, probably 1, maybe 0. which is absolutely insane to think about. In like I'm saying in the next 2 years, not in the next like couple months or whatever for anyone listening to this. If we don't have any of the three of these guys in the next 2 years, I would not be surprised at all. Would I be disappointed? Probably. Do I think Emmanuel Quickly is going to make an all-star team starting as a point guard for somewhere else? Absolutely. But would I be surprised on the team? No, I would not. Yeah, Brad, we're wrapping up. Don't worry, buddy. You can just ask me. I mean, it's only us. There's only like 12 to 200 people listening. We don't really know.
Only 12 to 200 people listening anyway.
We have no clue, honestly. So Ange had a couple questions for me to ask. Oh, we are supposed to. Oh, Vin, I needed you to look up both the Canada and the American rosters for FIBA. And while you're looking both those up, I'm gonna ask Brad the TikTok questions real quick. So, Brad, Ange put these in for me to ask you. Ask both of us, but are you ready?
Ready.
Okay. So the first one, I forgot we got into argument after he did it. Okay. Who is your name at? He said do top three, but name your top two most underrated Knicks since the year 2000.
Underrated.
And then if you could, a little reason why.
I should have been prefaced with this question.
All right, I'll go first if it helps.
No. Underrated. Okay. I mean, oh man, I'm trying to make it so that so that Vinny can easily cut this or whatever, or Angelo can easily cut this.
I can easily cut it. Just make sure you don't do too many dramatic pauses because then we lose actual listeners. But I can easily cut from whatever. I can record like up to 8 minutes on my phone and then make it 1 minute.
I was a big fan of Chris Copeland. I think that he was a two-way player and he came up big in a lot of situations, especially on the defensive end. And I know this is going to be like a little bit of a weird take because he was Defensive Player of the Year, but I think Tyson Chandler doesn't get enough respect, especially from Knicks fans, considering that, I mean, he was just like a do-it-all. He's everything that we wish Mitch was.
I think Mitch is almost there, honestly, dude. I think he does a lot, except Tyson Chandler shot almost 70% from the free throw line, and Mitch does not. So my top two underrated players, one is one of my favorite players that I ever watched as a rookie was Landry Fields, now GM of the Atlanta Hawks. And his rookie year, like, I remember the one putback dunk he had. I forgot about against which team, but it was like absolutely amazing to see. And it was like, he was the original like version of like a Knicks 3-and-D guy for me, like when I was like 19, 20 years old. And then he was somehow out of the rotation 2 years later and then out of the league 3 years after that. And it's like, how is this dude so good as a 21-year-old? And then he's not in the NBA by the time he's 27. And then he started working for front offices by the time before he was 30. So that was like absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And then if I was to name one other underrated Knick, I would probably say I really like the Chris Copeland answer. I really liked Q Rich, man. Watching Quentin Richardson play and shoot threes was like a really fun, enjoyable experience for me. Because I've always been a fan of like he didn't look like he was the most jacked in shape dude, man. He looked like he could have like had a couple beers and then played basketball afterwards. And he was good for what he did, man. Anyone that shoots over 30% from three and like looks like they can't really dunk, I'm sure he obviously could dunk, but like I just enjoyed watching it, especially as a kid. I thought it was entertaining.
And then because his brother was Jason Richardson.
I know. Yeah. And then so the other question is, Nate, who are the three non-Knick teams you're most looking forward to watching this year?
Great question. Obviously, Denver. I've been a huge Nikola Jokic fan for a few years now. Same. And I'm really glad that he finally had a chance to, show out on the biggest stage possible. Obviously going to be watching Dallas because we own their pick this year. And I want them to implode, but I want them to finish in 11th place so that we get the best possible pick.
We've already seen that they're not going to do.
Right. And as far as the third team, Portland. I've always been a fan of Portland. I think that as much as their management kind of failed Damian Lillard and he's likely going to be somewhere else, I also just like the young core that they're building. And I think that those guys are going to be a lot of fun to watch in the not too distant future.
I am excited to see Scoot. And I'm also excited to watch both the Thompson brothers. And there's like a lot of rookies that I'm really looking forward to. Jordan Walsh, I was really big on. Awesome. So Ben has the roster. So I'll give my top three real quick. Um, First and foremost, it's the same as every year. OKC. I love their youth. I don't want to give Knicks Twitter fodder, but I am jealous of their roster, and
you
I'm
like
jealous
little
of their
boys.
way to make it weird, man. Jesus, what the hell? No, obviously SGA is like one of the dudes I would love the Knicks to like kind of sell the house for at some point, at any point. He's definitely on my top 10 of like guys I would like. Him and Anthony Edwards have both like crept up there in the past, like I would say 6 months to get there. Um, but Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Chet are all like really exciting. And watching Chet and Poku is gonna be super funny and entertaining because anyone that's like Julius Randle's size is gonna blast through those guys. But he might still get blocked because they're both like a foot longer than him. So we don't really know what's gonna happen. Um, Another team I'm really excited for, similar vein, Orlando Magic. Always loved Markelle Fultz, and I'm really happy he was able to fix his shot a little bit after his rookie year and whatever the heck was wrong with his elbow. Even without Bol, I really like the Wagner brothers, and I love Cole Anthony. I think Cole Anthony will be a backup point guard on the Knicks one day, whether it's 2, 3, 4 years from now. I think it's bound to happen one way or another. And then my last team is a new addition, and I think it's based on the fact that I was like right about where they ended up last year, but I'm also really excited because they have one player that I was really excited about potentially drafting, which didn't happen last year. The Sacramento Kings, man. And I know I had the De'Aaron Fox take, and I know like I think Fox, like I literally was like Fox is like slightly better than Brunson, who's like equal with Jamal Murray kind of thing. Um, Fox and Sabonis are a great thing to watch. I like Harrison Barnes. I like that they re-signed him and they just keep him as a vet leadership. And dude, Keegan Murray is like nice. Keegan Murray has a chance of like making like Klay Thompson like leap in the next couple of years kind of thing. And while I was very correct about calling they were going to lose in the first round this year because they seemed very prime to be where the Knicks were 2 years ago, just based on their roster construction, Mike Brown, his first year with the team, they had no actual playoff experience. Unlike the Knicks 2 seasons ago, I don't think they're going to regress. I mean, I'm not going to say they're going to finish third, but they're going to still be in the top 6. They're going to still make the playoffs, and I'm really excited to see what they end up doing. Light the beam, baby. Light the beam.
Hey, thanks for tuning into the Palcast this week. We really appreciate you guys listening. Be sure to follow us on every single social media platform, even TikTok, even Threads, and make sure you like and subscribe and tell all your friends. On the road to 1,000.
Let's go, Knicks. Peace.